Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunadira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunadira Nachari Jaya Radha Madhava Vihara Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Brajajanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Nityananda Jaya Nityananda Ram Jaya Nityananda Ram, Jaya Nityananda Ram. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Jaya Jaya Gurudev, 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev. Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paripachakacharya Astottara Shatashi Srimad His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Paripachakacharya Astottara Shatashi Shri Srimad Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur or Prabhupada Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Granth Raj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimati Nirumita Swaminiti Namini Prachara Pumarakshan Chan Bhakta Jarapani Bhagavati Jai. For some reason, I can't see. I can't see anybody's face.
When the screen is shared, you cannot see, but the other time you can see it.
I see. I see. Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you, Prabhu. Now I can't see the screen. Now I can't see. Sorry, I have a different device. So I'm just trying to figure out how to use Zoom on this. Okay, all right, got it. Cool. So reading from Srila Prabhupada, Leelamrita. This is which chapter, Prabhu?
34, Jet Age Paribrajak Acharya.
Thank you so much, everyone, for being here. Once Shamasundar was standing in line at the yogurt store when a man behind him asked him about yoga. I really want to talk with you, the man said, and he gave Shamasundar his name and address and a time they could safely meet. When Shamasundar told Prabhupada, Prabhupada said, "No, he's a policeman, don't go." One day, two young men, one the son of an Indian diplomat stationed in Moscow, the other a young Muscovite, were loitering near Red Square when they saw an amazing sight. Out of the usual regimented routine of the city traffic, a tall young man with a shaved head, a long reddish ponytail, and white flowing robes approached. It was Shamasundar. Familiar with Shamasundar's dress, the son of the Indian diplomat stopped him. Shamasundar smiled, "Hare Krishna, brother," and he began talking with the Indian, whose name was Narayan. The Russian, Ivan, knew a little English and followed the conversation as closely as he could. The talk grew serious. "Why don't you come up and meet my spiritual master?" Shamasundar asked. Honored, the boys immediately accompanied Shamasundar to the Hotel National. When they arrived, they found Prabhupada seated on his bed, aglow and smiling, Aravinda massaging his feet. Shamasundar entered, offering obeisances before Prabhupada. Ivan was completely fascinated. "Come on," Prabhupada said, and the three of them sat at Prabhupada's feet. Turning first to Narayan, Prabhupada asked his name and his father's occupation. Narayan liked Prabhupada and offered to bring him green vegetables. His father, being highly placed at the Indian embassy, had produce flown in from India. Ivan was interested even more than his Indian friend, and Prabhupada began explaining to him the philosophy of Krishna consciousness, while Narayan helped by translating. Even Ivan inquired with respect and awe, and Prabhupada answered his questions, teaching as much basic information about Krishna consciousness was possible in one sitting. Prabhupada explained the difference between the spirit soul and the body and described the soul's eternal relationship with Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He spoke of Bhagavad Gita, of his network of temples around the world, and of his young men and women disciples all practicing Bhakti Yoga. Jai Srila Prabhupada's Leela Amrita Ki Jai. Prabhu, would you be able to put the verse on screen?
Yes, Madhya, I'm just sharing. Just a second.
Thank you so much.
So, Mataji, is it visible from your side?
Yes,
Okay, that's fine.
thank you. So this is a prose verse. I don't think we'll be able to. I don't think everybody will be able to recite it. It is a prose verse, right? Or is it just appearing this way on my screen?
Yes, Mataji.
यदा पाखण्डेभिरात्मवञ्चितैस्ताैरुरु वाञ्छितो ब्रह्मकुलं समावासंस्तेषां शीलम् उपनायादि श्रौता स्मार्ता कर्मानुष्ठानेन भगवतो यज्ञा पुरुषस्याराधनम् एव तद् आरोचयन् शूद्रकुलं भजते निगमाचरे शुदितो यस्य मिथुनी भावः कुटुम्बभारणं यथा वानर जातेः. Okay, so we'll do the word for word. Yada, when, Pakhandi bihi, by Pashandis, godless atheists, Atma vanchitaha, Atma vanchitai, who themselves are cheated, Tai, by them, Uru, more and more, vanchitaha, being cheated, Brahmakulam, the bona fide Brahmanas strictly following the Vedic culture, Sama vasan, settling among them to advance spiritually, Tesham, of them, the Brahmanas who strictly follow the Vedic principles. Shrilam, the good character. Upanayana Adi, beginning with offering the sacred thread or training the conditioned soul to qualify as a bona fide Brahmana. Shrota, according to the Vedic principles. Smarta, according to the authorized scriptures derived from the Vedas. Karma Anushtanena, the performance of activities. Bhagavataha, of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yagya Purushasya, who is worshipped by Vedic ritualistic ceremonies. Aradhanam, the process of worshipping him. Eva, Vedic principles. Ashuddhitaha, not purified. Did I miss something? Ashuddhitaha, I've lost myself. Okay. Aradhanam, the process of worshipping him, Eva, certainly. Tat arochayan, not finding pleasure in it due to its being difficult for unscrupulous persons to perform. Shudra Kulam, the society of Shudras, Bhajate, he turns to. Nigama Acharya, in behaving according to the Vedic principles. Ashuddhitaha, not purified. Yasya, of whom. Mithuni Bhavaha, sex enjoyment or the materialistic way of life. Kutumba Bharanam, the maintenance of family, Yatha as it is, Vanara Jatehe, of the society of monkeys or the descendants of the monkey. The pseudo swamis, yogis, and incarnations who do not believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead are known as Pashandis. They themselves are fallen and cheated because they do not know the real path of spiritual advancement. And whoever goes to them is certainly cheated in his turn. When one is thus cheated, he sometimes takes shelter of the real followers of Vedic principles, Brahmanas or those in Krishna consciousness, who teach everyone how to worship the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Um, according to the Vedic rituals. However, being unable to stick to these principles, these rascals again fall down and take shelter among Shudras, who are very expert in making arrangements for sex indulgence. Sex is very prominent among animals like monkeys, and such people who are enlivened by sex may be called descendants of monkeys. It's a long purport. Would someone like to read the first paragraph?
Hare Krishna Mataji, I am reading it.
Okay.
By fulfilling the process of evolution from aquatics to animal platform, a living entity eventually reaches the human form. The three modes of material nature are always working in the evolutionary process. Those who come to the human form through the quality of Shattaguna were cows in their last animal incarnation. Those who come to the human form through the quality of Rajaguna were lions in their last animal incarnation. And those who come to the human form through the quality of tamoguna were monkeys in their last animal incarnation. In this age, those who come through the monkey species are considered by modern anthropologists like Darwin to be descendants of monkeys. We receive information herein that those who are simply interested in sex are actually no better than monkeys. Monkeys are very expert in enjoyment, and sometimes sex glands are taken from monkeys and placed in the human body so that a human being can enjoy sex in old age. In this way, modern civilization has advanced. Many monkeys in India were caught and sent to Europe so that their sex glands could serve as replacement for those of old people. Those who actually descend from the monkeys are interested in expanding their aristocratic families through sex. In the Vedas, there are also certain ceremonies specially meant for sexual improvement and promotion to higher planetary systems, where demigods are enjoying sex. The demigods are also very inclined towards sex because that is the basic principle of material enjoyment. Hare Krishna Mataji, so someone else can read the next.
I'll try,
read.
Mataji.
Okay, go Prabhu. Go ahead.
Thank you. Oh, sorry, you go, Mataji. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
no problem.
First of all, the conditioned soul is cheated by so-called swamis, yogis.
Hello. So, Mataji, can you continue, or it seems Mataji has been disconnected?
Yes, yeah.
So,
Yes, I am
Purushottam
reading.
Prabhu.
I am
Okay.
reading, but it was on mute. Okay, I am reading again.
Thank you.
First of all, the conditioned soul is cheated by so-called swamis, yogis, and incarnations when he approaches them to be relieved of material miseries. When the conditioned soul is not satisfied with them, he comes to devotees and pure brahmanas who try to elevate him for final liberation from material bondage. However, the unscrupulous conditioned soul cannot rigidly follow the principles prohibiting illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. Thus, he falls down and takes shelter of people who are like monkeys. In the Krishna consciousness movement, these monkey disciples, being unable to follow the strict regulative principles, sometimes fall down and try to form societies based on sex. This is proof that such people are descendants of monkeys, as confirmed by Darwin. In this verse, it is therefore clearly stated, Yatha Banara Jatehe. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Jai, thank you so much. Om Ajnana-timirandasya Gyananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivas Adi Gaur Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Krishna Mataji,
Right.
your video is muted. Can you?
Yes, yeah, I'm going to share my screen soon.
Okay, thank you.
So I just wanted to request for the blessings of all the devotees. By your mercy, I may be able to say something which is inspiring for all of us in our Krishna consciousness. Hare Krishna. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, Mataji, you can see that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so this is it's quite an intense verse, this one. I guess the section of the Bhagavatam where Jadabharat is instructing Maharaj Rahugana is quite, I find it quite heavy because in this section where the forest of material enjoyment, where Maharaj Rahugana is asking Jadabharat for further clarification. So then we see that in this section, Jadabharat is very clearly creating a visual presentation of us, a visual presentation for us of what actually happens in the material world. So it's like we like to see the world in a hunky-dory way. or we like to see the world with our rose-tinted glasses. But that's the purpose of the Bhagavatam, to take off these glasses and actually show us show what is actually happening in the material world. And sometimes, sometimes such sections can be quite intense can be quite intense on our consciousness, but they're very purifying. So this is one such verse here. So what is actually happening in this verse? So Srila Prabhupada is explaining, it's presenting the journey of the living entity through the material world. So if we see here, as you can see I'm really into learning by visuals. So you can see my drawing. It's not so good, but still I'm going to try. So the material world is Maya's factory. And in this factory, I'm going to use this analogy of this factory because it really helped me to understand this concept. So yes, I'm going to use this analogy. So please bear with me and follow me along. So the material world is the factory of Maya. Now, in this factory, Maya puts Jiva through a very complex process of evolution. So what is happening is that the material modes are working upon the Jiva and they are moving him through different species of life, right? So we know from our Shastra that the living entity goes through 8,400,000 species of life. And in every species, he goes through all varieties. So the living entity is moving through all these different species of life. And in every species, he is going through the process of birth, death, old age, and disease. Now, what's happening is that in each body that we go through, in each body, we are subject to a specific influence of the modes. So, yes, we know that we have the three modes, Sattvagun, Rajagun, and Tamagun. But we read in Srimad Bhagavatam that the permutations and combinations of these modes are endless. So in every body, we go through a specific combination of these modes. So just as in a factory, let's say if you have a factory, when I was much younger in my engineering days, we would go for these factory visits to see how factories work. And often we would go to factories which have assembly lines. So generally how assembly line factories work is that the raw materials, they enter the factory and they start from one section. And so the factory has different departments, department A, B, C, and in every department, there is a different process that is happening, right? And in every department, each process is unique. And so this process is, so what is happening in a process is that these raw materials, they are subject to specific conditions. So for example, in the process in department A, the temperature might be super high. And then in department B, maybe the temperature is very reduced. Then maybe in department C, the raw material is going through, let's say if it's iron, let's say that maybe in department C, it is getting molded into something. So in each department, the raw material is going through a certain process. So similarly, this department is like a body. And we are going through these different bodies. And in each body, we are subject to a specific process, which is nothing but a specific influence of the three modes. So now what happens is that when we move from one department to the next, so let's say we are moving from this body to this body here. So when we move from one department to the next, the process that we have undergone here in our first body, it leaves an imprint on us. And when we move to the next body, this process, this imprint is carried on to the next body as a signature, what we also know through our Shastra as samskara. So for example, going back to the factory example, so when the raw material moves from department A to department B, there is often this department will put a stamp on it. And what this stamp will show, what is the process that this raw material has gone through in department A. So this stamp actually indicates the process that has been completed on the raw material. So similarly, this signature that we are carrying on to our next body shows the essence of the specific influence of modes that we have gone through in our previous body. So fulfilling this process of evolution, going through all these different, all the 8,400,000 species of life, going through this process of evolution, which certainly is a process, right? You can imagine that in each, just as the raw material is going through a process in each body, in each department, we are going through a process in each body. So after going through all these bodies, we can certainly say that we have fulfilled the process of evolution. So after fulfilling this process of evolution, the living entity comes to the human form of life. And now in the human form of life, this is the question mark. We're often quite confused about what's happening. So in the human form of life, what is happening is we are carrying the signature of our previous body. I'm actually going to draw this here. So when we come to the human form of life, we are carrying the signature of our previous body. Now, this signature that we have, it heavily influences, as we know, it influences our consciousness, it influences our intelligence, it influences our mind, and these things externally manifest as our choices and our actions. So now going through life, inevitably, the conditioned soul gets, the conditioned soul gets distressed. And in seeking relief for his distress, he approaches a group of spiritualists. He first approaches a group of spiritualists. So that is his first stop. But unfortunately, it turns out that these spiritualists are pseudo. What we read in the purport as Pashandis or Pakhandis. So why are they Pashandis and why are they pseudo spiritualists? It's because first of all they don't believe in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Then they don't have the proper way of they're not actually aware of the right way of achieving perfection in life, and because they themselves don't know the wrong way, so they are actually cheating others by passing on this wrong way to others. Now, because this is not the real thing, so then this conditioned soul here is cheated and is disappointed. And out of his disappointment, then the conditioned soul moves on. And then he comes to the next stop, which is the devotee. And in the purport, the devotees are referred to as Brahmakulam. So this is stop 2. So what are the characteristics of the good of the devotees? The characteristic that is described in this purport is Sheelam, or good character. And what do the devotees want to do? The devotees always want to glorify Krishna. They want to preach. So when this conditioned soul comes, it comes to the company of devotees. So then the devotees, they start talking to him about Shastra, and they teach him how to worship Krishna according to the Shastra. So the devotees want to teach everybody who comes in their association how to become a Brahmana, how to get Brahmanical training, and how to come to the platform of goodness and rise above and worship Krishna. So now this living entity is here and he is settling among the devotees referred to as Brahmakulam. And then, he realizes now that he is meant to worship Krishna. But unfortunately, we didn't really come to the material world to worship Krishna. We came to the material world to do the exact opposite. So naturally, then we don't enjoy worshiping Krishna. It doesn't come to us naturally. Just as we have the famous example in the Shastra of how a jaundiced person doesn't like sugar candy. Even though sugar candy is sweet, but a jaundiced person finds sugar candy very bitter. So similarly, even though worshiping Krishna is our constitutional position, but when we are asked to worship him, we don't find it enjoyable. So this conditioned soul doesn't have a taste for worshiping Krishna. And then to add to the problem, because of our sinful activities in the past, the reactions of these sinful activities, they they make it hard for us to worship Krishna or to become steady in our worship of Krishna. So we see in Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 29, Yesham Twantagata Papam. So in that verse, Prabhupada is explaining that unless actually one is fully cleansed of their sinful reactions, and unless one has lived a fully pious life, it is not possible to become Dhiravrata. It is not possible to have steady determination in worship of Krishna. So then that is the second problem, that even when we do start worshiping Krishna, it's hard for us to be steady. And then because of our past conditioning is actually creating illicit desires in us to enjoy separately from Krishna or to enjoy with Krishna. So these three things, so this combo here makes it, makes Krishna consciousness a little bit difficult. So now the stronger the influence of this signature that we are carrying with us, the heavier is the weight of these illicit desires. And the harder it is for us to stick to the rules and regulations of Krishna consciousness. So when these desires, especially sex desire, when they don't allow us to engage in steady worship of Krishna, or in such a way that that one takes up the process of bhakti and then drops the process of bhakti, then according to this purport, it is a sign that this living entity here has the signature of a monkey body, and they are coming through the quality of tamogun, and in their previous life they had a monkey body. So now, unable to follow the rules and regulations given by the devotees because of strong influence of their monkey's signature, then the living entity moves on to next destination, which is stop 3, and which in the text is referred to as Vanara Jate Hai. Or the descendants of monkeys. So this is where the living entity comes now. And so unable to follow Krishna consciousness, then the living entity leaves the association of devotees and seeks those with a similar signature as his. And so he comes to find the association of those who are descendants of monkeys. Now, why are they called descendants of monkeys? Because they have two prime symptoms. First is, as we read in the purport, it's Mithuni Bhava. And then the second is Kutumba Bharanam. So Prabhupada has translated it very nicely. So Prabhupada is explaining the first one, Mithuni Bhava, is that they're actually enlivened by sex. And then the second one, Kutumba Bharanam, is that they make expert arrangements for increasing sex life or for expanding their aristocratic families. So in the commentary, in the commentary by the acharyas, this Kutumba Bharanam has a very interesting explanation. It's explained that those who actually take pleasure in expanding their families and bearing the burden of family life. So this is the third stop of the living entity, the association of monkeys. And these people, they are impure. Why? Because they do the exact opposite of the rules and regulations that are preached by the Brahmakulam. So just tracking back here now, I think I have a better drawing here. Here. Okay, so the living entity comes from, so the living entity arrives, fulfilling the process of evolution, comes, gets a human form of life, and he's carrying a previous signature, and then from here, he first comes to the association of Pashandis who are just treating him. And then from here, he comes to the next stop, which is the association of devotees who have really good character and who are trying to preach, trying to train this person in the worship of Krishna. But we don't have a taste for worshiping Krishna. We don't like to do that. Because of our previous sinful activities, it's hard for us to be steady in the worship of Krishna. And our previous conditioning creates illicit desires in us. So unable to follow this Upanayana Adi, or the training according to Shruti and Smriti, to come to the Brahmanical platform, the living entity moves on to the third stop, which is the association of monkey societies, where two things are prominent. Mithuni Bhava, which is people who are enlivened by sex and who make arrangements for increasing sex life, and who are impure because they don't follow Shruti and Smriti. And so where here, so the living entity actually, after fulfilling the process of evolution, had the chance to exit the material world, to exit Maya's factory. But instead, now he goes back to the same place. Okay, so now how do we make sure that this does not happen to us? Because we know that Maya is very strong. And yeah, we can never be sure, in material life, anything can happen. So we can never be sure of what challenges Maya throws our way. So how can we be sure that this does not happen to us? So we all know that the challenges presented by our nature, they definitely create the challenges presented by our conditioning, they create obstacles for us in our path of bhakti. And as we saw before, the main challenges are we can't be steady, we don't have taste, and illicit desires. So what do we do? So the most important thing is tolerate. That's why that is the second instruction that Krishna gives to Bhagavad Gita. 2:14, Matra sprashastu kaunteya shitushna sukha dukha daha. That Arjuna, please tolerate the happiness and distress that comes. This is like the summer and the winter season. So tolerate it. But, you can only tolerate it for so long, right? Like when the volume of the mind becomes too loud, then you can't really tolerate it. It becomes hard to neglect the mind. So to lower the volume of the mind, we need the help of three things. So first is intellect. We need sharp intelligence. Second, we need faith in the process of devotional service. And third, we need taste. So intellect here, so this is science, this is practice, and this is experience. So we need all these three items: science, practice, and experience, S, P, and E. And this is what Krishna is presenting in the Bhagavad Gita 9.2. Raja Vidya, king of knowledge, Raja Guhyam, most confidential, Pavitram idam uttamam, pratyakshavagamam dharmyam. So it's giving us experience, perception of self experience. And susukham kartum avyayam. So susukham is the taste. Okay, so let's see now how we can actually develop these things for ourselves. It's already 8:15. Okay, so let's look at the first one. So the first is intelligence. So before we go into how do we develop sharp intelligence, let's see, what do you actually mean by intelligence? What is intelligence? So the function of intelligence is to question, is to doubt, and then to determine truth. In Sanskrit known as Nishchay. That is the function of intelligence. So what does intelligence do? It evaluates pros and cons of engaging in a certain action for the owner. Now, who is the owner? The owner is spirit soul. So the natural function of intelligence is to determine that if I do this activity, if I engage in this action, is it going to be good for my Krishna consciousness? Or is it going to be bad for my Krishna consciousness? That is the natural function of the intellect. But when our intelligence is affected by when our intelligence is materially affected, then this pros and cons analysis unfortunately becomes faulty. Now, how does it become faulty? So let's see. So when the intelligence performs this pros and cons analysis, it creates or it accesses two types of knowledge. So one is positive and one is negative. So when the intelligence is materially affected, now let's say we are hit by a material desire. So then what intelligence does? Intelligence thinks, okay, so this is how materially contaminated intelligence acts. Yeah. So then the intelligence will think, okay, look at this desire that I'm having. Oh wow, if I engage in this, I will have so much sense gratification. My senses will be so happy. I will do this and I will do this, and this will happen and that will happen. And cons? Of course, there are no cons at all. This activity is all good. And when we are hit by a spiritual desire, then what does intelligence say? Oh, those devotees, they are so boring. That should come here. They are so boring. They just chant the same mantra all the time. And they have so many rules and regulations. So the materially contaminated intelligence for spiritual desire says there are too many cons. And for pros, what does it say? What pros? There are no pros of this Krishna consciousness. I don't see any pros here. So this is faulty pros and cons analysis. And once this faulty pros and cons analysis is done, then the intelligence passes this on to the mind. And now we know the mind has three functions: thinking, feeling, and willing. So based on this faulty information received from the mind makes an unfavorable decision. It develops the feelings of attachment and aversion, and it orders the senses. So we see that our downfall actually begins the problem actually begins here in this pros and cons analysis. So how do we counter this? So we counter this by strengthening the intelligence through, you all know the answer, Shastra. So through providing spiritual knowledge, because we can see that this is where the faulty analysis is happening. So what Shastra does is, Shastra says, hey, wait a minute. Actually, this material desire that is hitting you, it has no pros. It's only giving you the illusion that there is going to be sense gratification. But actually, there is zero sense gratification here. It's only going to bring you trouble. And what it does is, it actually shows us, you are thinking that there will be no cons, but these are the cons of engaging in this activity. How is it going to play out? How is it going to affect your consciousness? What will be the ramifications of karma? How is it going to affect your spiritual life? So the Shastra points that out. And then Shastra says, those devotees, they are not boring. They are actually inspiring. In their association, your Bhakti Lata Bij is nourished and your intelligence is sharpened, and they give you service and they guide you. So Shastra says, what are the pros of engaging in spiritual desire? And then the Shastra shows us that there are no cons here. In fact, this is for our ultimate good. So Shastra actually, so Shastra shows us the positive benefits of spiritual association and the negative benefit, the consequences of material association. So this is the value of Shastra. And in this purport of Bhagavad Gita 10.11, Prabhupada writes that by studying Bhagavad Gita, one can become a soul completely surrendered to Krishna, to the Supreme Lord, and engage himself in pure devotional service. And as the Lord takes charge, one becomes completely free from all kinds of materialistic endeavors. Well, then one may say, oh, that I don't have I'm not a studious person and I'm not into reading Shastra. My life is too busy. I fall asleep. I don't have the time for this. So what is going to happen of me? So then in the previous verse, Prabhupada assures us that don't worry. If we are not able to take advantage of our Shastra, we have the Guru inside us, Krishna. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam priti purvakam dadami buddhi yogam tam yena mam upayanti te. So if we are sincere and devoted to the activities of devotional service, then Krishna gives us the intelligence on how to move ahead. Krishna will help us. So the qualification is that we have to engage ourselves and render all kinds of services with love and devotion. We should perform some sort of work for Krishna, and that work should be performed with love. So that's the first aspect, intelligence. Now let's look at the next one, faith. So the first point is, what does it actually mean to have faith? So we know the famous verse from CC that faith means that by worshipping Krishna, one can achieve all perfection. But we can break this down a bit further. So first is faith in Krishna as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Not that Brahman is supreme, not that Krishna is equal to a demigod, or not that Brahma, Vishnu, not that Brahma, Shiva, they are on the same level as Krishna, and not that some other incarnation of Krishna is greater than Krishna. No, Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead and he is the original person. So faith in that. That's the first aspect of faith. Second is faith in the process of bhakti. Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, that hearing and chanting will solve all my problems. I don't need anything else in my life. Actually, hearing and chanting will solve all my problems. That is the second aspect of faith. And third aspect of faith is faith in the Guru. To be able to deliver us, Krishna and Bhakti, and take us out of material existence. So these are the three aspects of faith, and Krishna talks about them in extensively in chapter 9 of the Bhagavad Gita. So now the next question is, how do we build this faith? So first, Prabhupada says that the process of Krishna consciousness, by engaging in the process of Krishna consciousness, one develops faith. And then he goes on to say that, this we hear in different Shastra, the difference between different levels of devotees. And so it is explained that faith at lower levels is characteristic of inadequate knowledge of Krishna through Shastras such as Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. So therefore, by hearing and association of devotees, we can increase our knowledge of Krishna and we can gain conviction. And as our conviction increases, then naturally our faith also increases. So the second is, the second point is hearing Shastra in association of devotees. Then the third point is prajalpa. So whatever faith we have, it is our responsibility to protect to protect our faith by avoiding mundane hearing or by engaging in mundane talking. So mundane hearing involves everything, watching movies, newspapers, and social media, just whatever that does not benefit us in Krishna consciousness is in the realm of mundane hearing. And doing mundane talking, which does not uplift the consciousness of other people, is also is within prajalpa. So actually prajalpa really affects our faith. This is explained by Shivram Swami in Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani. Okay, and then the last point is, so we've looked at intelligence, we've looked at faith, and now the last point is taste. So this, I was recently listening to this lecture by Mother Urmila. It's a beautiful seminar she does. It's called as The Inner View. So she got this from a letter that Prabhupada wrote to Jayapataka Maharaj about how to perform our service. So we can experience higher taste in our service by paying attention to detail. So what does that involve? So that involves, as we know, the one famous principle of Bhagavad Gita is acting with detachment, leaving the results up to Krishna, right? Results are up to Krishna. So we do our service with full enthusiasm, but we leave the results up to Krishna. So detachment from results, then being conscious of our interactions, and then being conscious of our internal state. Am I just doing this because I'm meant to do this? And this is a dry, boring thing. But actually doing it from all our heart. So that's paying attention to detail. And then the second is prayer. Prayer for what? Prayer for absorption in service. That Krishna, please let me become absorbed in my service and let all other considerations be gone. Let me fully focus on my service, not thinking, not getting distracted to other things that are going on in my life. So prayer for complete absorption in service. And third is knowing that whatever service I'm doing now is a part of Krishna's plan. Whatever I'm doing now is important, and it is a part of Krishna's plan. So I don't have to think, oh, that maybe I should be doing this, or maybe I should be doing that, or why am I doing this, and this is not suited to me right now. But no, actually what I'm doing right now is part of Krishna's plan, and this is the reason why I'm here right now in my life. And Krishna wants me to learn something here and wants me to serve in this capacity. So let me do my best. Let me pray for complete absorption, and let me do this service to the best of my ability. Right? So these three things, developing our intelligence, working on building our faith, and doing service in a certain mood. So these three things, they will help us to stick it out in Krishna consciousness. And they will help us to overcome the obstacles that are created by our conditioning. They will help us to become steady. They will help us to develop taste, and they will help us to overcome our illicit desires. Now, but the important thing is regularity. Consistency is everything. Imagine you're trying to boil water in a kettle, and if every 30 seconds you keep turning the kettle off. So if you keep cutting off the power supply to the kettle, then the water will never come to a boil. So it's important to keep the water supply going, to keep the flow of electricity going so that so that the water can come to a boil. So similarly, it is important to keep simmering or to maintain the heat in our bhakti practices to whatever level we can maintain, but to maintain that heat in a sustainable way and to always look for ways on how to increase that heat. Now, in spite of all this, because Maya is very strong, material energy is very strong. So it may happen that it may happen, that accidents can happen. Accidents definitely happen in spiritual life because material contamination is very strong. So even for a yogi who is fully engaged in service, due to the strong force of circumstances, a devotee may behave out of character. But instead of becoming discouraged and disheartened, we should have faith in the process of bhakti and we should continue with our service. So, what is the mood that we should try to cultivate when these things happen? So, the first important thing is to feel continuous repentance in our heart. And I don't know now which purport it is, but I think it's in the first canto where Prabhupada writes that repentance, that when the devotee has a mood of repentance, this repentance actually burns up. It burns up it burns up the reactions of the negative activity. So having a mood of continuous repentance and actually feeling disgust for our out of character actions and wholehearted engagement in Krishna's service. Wholehearted engagement in Krishna's service. And of course, the most important thing is while doing all these things, the most important thing is remembering Krishna. Because finally, this remembrance of Krishna is the most powerful atonement. And if we have that, if we focus on remembering Krishna, then we don't need to worry about anything else. But at the same time, we shouldn't take advantage of Krishna's kindness and intentionally commit mistakes. We have to do our part for trying to be responsible as much as possible. And when accidents happen, they happen. Yeah, but then this is the mood that we can adopt so that our service is not affected, and then Krishna sees our sincerity and helps us to keep going. Okay, so just quickly summarizing. So we've looked at how the living entity moves from one body to the next and carries on the previous samskaras, and by the influence of previous samskaras, then he gets a human body, and then he moves from the association of Pashandis to Brahmakulam to the association of devotees, but unable to follow, he then goes to the association of monkeys. And how can we prevent that in our own life? By trying to build our intellect, our faith, and our taste. So we build intellect through strengthening our intelligence through Shastra. And then we build through strengthening our intelligence with Shastra, and Krishna is there as our internal guide. And then we build our faith by sticking to the process of Krishna consciousness, by increasing our knowledge of Krishna through Shastra, by through the association of devotees and not engaging in prajalpa, avoiding mundane hearing to protect whatever faith we have. And then by developing taste, by giving attention to detail, working with detachment, leaving the results up to Krishna, being conscious of our interactions, and being conscious of our interactions, and praying for full absorption in our service, 100% absorption in our service. And just knowing that what I'm doing right now is a part of Krishna's plan. And this is important. So let me focus on this and not think that other things are more important in my life. And if things happen, then continuing with our service in a wholehearted way and remembering Krishna and having a mood of repentance and disgust. Okay, so that's what I had to share on this. Now we are out of time. So I'll leave it up to the hosts if anybody, can take over.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you very much for explaining very elaborately the point and the meaning of this verse so nicely from various angles, particularly how a living being carries the signature or the burdens of his previous life and comes to the present life and faces the obstacle in material life. For first understanding what is his real condition and then pursuing for the right goal. So very nicely you've explained. Thank you for that. And so I leave it to the other people, other devotees now to raise any questions if they have. Thank you once again for your very nice class, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for a beautiful lesson. It was very informative and like lots of application to our life and some moments to be aware of, especially in our everyday life and how we build our. So I've heard one Guru Maharaj said that it's like we got to plan our spiritual life, not just our normal life. So it's something that we need to take into consideration when we're planning our spiritual journey. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, no, that is such a good point. My Guru Maharaj also says the same thing, that if you don't have a plan for your life, then Maya will make a plan for you. So it's so important. Thank you so much, yeah, for mentioning that. Actually, definitely that's a point of having strong intelligence planning and not just or go with the flow. We all know where that flow goes.
True that.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Thank you for elaborating this in a very logical way. The factory allegory is quite instructive, and myself having worked in a factory and being an engineer myself, makes a lot of sense. It's the first time I had this sort of process control. Okay. Yeah, you managed to like hold seminar on this in 1 hour. It's become quite an amazing feat. Thank you. So the previous substance are carried forward, like being processed from one process to another. The beginning stages of faith allows Shraddha. So for newcomers, who are completely not aware of what Krishna consciousness is, how to cultivate a lot of Shraddha? I mean, they are quite, as you said, they got quite a bit of impression from their previous life, current life. They got no knowledge. So somebody comes to inquire. So how to sort of give them a bit of faith to start the Krishna journey? Maybe you have quite a bit of experience.
Yes. No, thank you. That's a very good question. So generally, what we try to do here is at the loft it's under the guidance of Devamrita Maharaj. What he says is that try to give is that at least 3 times a week, somebody who is new, if somebody is new, at least 3 times a week, they should have association of devotees. So even though when somebody new is coming along, let's say, you run a program once a week and you meet them there, but then other 2 times, you can stay in touch with them via the phone, because basically they need the association of devotees. And what happens is when we are in touch with these persons, we actually find out what they're doing. Like, for example, yesterday I was talking to this girl and she said that she Googled why Krishna is blue, and Google gave her the answer because he drank some poison and so his body became blue. And then she said that one Google answer said that Krishna is green. So yeah, so basically when we spend time with them, then we can actually then we actually get to understand what their conceptions are and what is their conditioning. And then because they are seeing the manner of the devotees, they can see that these are really nice persons. Then we have to be very gentle. We can't just in one shot we can't just destroy all their baggage. So mainly the main way that we do is we leave it to Prabhupada's books. So we read Prabhupada's books with them. And then also then naturally, as they're reading Prabhupada's books, their misconceptions are getting clarified. So that's the main thing, spending time with them and trying to understand what is it that's going on in their head, and reading Prabhupada's books with them and actually asking, so how do you feel about this? That's what I would say, and lots of prasad. Yeah.
Thank you for these tips. Thank you, Vaji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Ravi.
I think we are just about out of time. Anybody got any more reflection or to share? Otherwise, we can end the class here. Doesn't seem to be Mataji, so we'll end the class here. Thank you. Hare Krishna. Vancha
कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय मुनि जरन देवी दासी की जय प्रभुपाद की जय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल ऑल ग्लोरीज टू assembled devotees हरे कृष्ण थैंक यू माताजी वेरी नाइस क्लास थैंक यू
Thank you.